3 years in, she had stopped arguing about it, not because she'd accepted it, because she didn't have anything left to say that she hadn't already said. Her daughter was 13. They used to talk on the drive home from school, real talk, the kind where her daughter would start a sentence before the car door closed. Now the earbuds went in before she'd buckled her seatbelt. And somewhere in those 3 years, the mother had started carrying a question she didn't say out loud. Not, how do I fix this? Something older than that. Something quieter. Is she still in there? The girl who used to reach for me? Is she still in there? If you're watching this, you probably know that question. Not as a thought you have occasionally, as a thought that finds you at 11 p.m. when the house is finally quiet, and you're not sure quiet is better than the noise. This video is about what happened next for that family, not what they learned, what they actually did in sequence imperfectly over time. Because at this point, you don't need another framework. You need to see what repair actually looks like from inside a house where the distance had been growing for 3 years. That's what this is. Let me take you back to how this family arrived at that moment, because understanding that path might help you recognize your own. Her name was Diane. Her daughter's name was Maya. And the first thing we're saying about how they got here is that there was no single moment. That's the part that makes this kind of distance so hard to name. It doesn't arrive with an event you can point to. It accumulates. For Diane, it started when Maya was 10. She'd had a brutal year at work. Her marriage was under strain. And the tablet, which had started as a weekend thing, a Saturday morning thing, had become the thing that kept Maya occupied, while Diane kept everything else from falling apart. She knew, even then, that it was more than she intended. But more than intended is different from a problem. And that's the part no one talks about honestly enough. The way 1,000 small reasonable choices stack into something that doesn't look reasonable at all when you see it from a distance. Each evening she handed Maya the device. It made sense. She was exhausted. Maya was calm on it. Tomorrow she'd do something different. Tomorrow kept moving. By the time Maya was 11, the device was the default. By 12, the conversations that used to happen at dinner were happening in shorter and shorter versions. Maya half present, responses arriving in the flat, brief register of someone whose attention is somewhere else. By 13, the drive home from school was silent. Not hostile, not angry, just empty in a way that felt worse than angry. Diane told me she used to sit in the driveway after Maya went inside. Just sit there, trying to figure out when exactly she'd lost the thread. The thing about 3 years of incremental distance is that it doesn't feel like 3 years of failure. It feels like 3 years of surviving. And then one day, you look up and realize what surviving cost you. That's where Diane was when she decided something had to change, not at a breaking point. Past it. At the quieter, more dangerous place on the other side, where you stopped expecting things to be different and started to grieve what you think you've already lost. Now, what happened next will probably sound familiar, because Diane tried what most of us try first. You already know this part, the attempts. Not because Diane's attempts were unusual, because they were exactly the same as yours. Screen time limits through the phone settings. Maya found the workaround in 40 minutes. A device-free dinner rule. It held for 5 days. Then there was one exception for homework, and the exception became the rule, a conversation about what the research says. What screens do to the developing brain, the dopamine, the attention span, all of it. Maya listened, said, okay, picked up her phone 4 minutes later. Here is what Diane told me she understood only in hindsight. Every single one of those attempts was aimed at the screen, not at Maya. Not at what was underneath the screen for Maya, which was not addiction, not defiance, not indifference to her mother. It was comfort. It was the reliable absence of disappointment. It was the one place in her life that asked nothing of her and gave her something back every time. And every time Diane came for the screen, Maya experienced it as Diane coming for the one thing that felt safe. That's not a moral verdict on Maya. It's not a moral verdict on Diane. It's what the attachment research keeps finding in families navigating this specific kind of distance, that the screen isn't the relationship problem. The screen is where a child goes when the relationship has become harder to navigate than the alternative, which means taking the screen is not the same thing as repairing the relationship. Diane tried 4 different protocols in 14 months. All of them addressed the screen. None of them addressed the distance. And here is the thing about that. The thing that matters for where you are right now. That's not a record of failure. That's a record of someone solving the wrong problem very persistently. The moment everything changed wasn't when Diane found a better protocol. It was when she asked a different question. Not, how do I get Maya off the screen? But, what would make being with me feel as safe as that screen does? And that question led to something small and unremarkable. Something that changed everything. It started on a Tuesday. Not a special Tuesday. Not the Tuesday after a breakthrough conversation or a family decision to do things differently. Just a Tuesday in February when Diane came home from work, and instead of asking Maya about her phone use, she sat down next to her on the couch. Didn't say much, asked one question. Not about school, not about screens. She asked Maya what she was watching. And Maya, who had been braced, Diane realized later, for the version of the conversation she'd had 30 times before, paused, looked at her mother, and explained it. It was 11 minutes. Diane timed it later because it felt significant and she wanted to mark it somehow. 11 minutes of Maya talking about something she cared about, and Diane listening without redirecting, without correcting, without moving toward the point she usually moved toward. Nothing was resolved that night. The phone policy didn't change, the distance didn't close, but something shifted in the quality of the silence afterward. Not fixed, not healed, slightly different. Diane described it as the first time in a long time that she felt like she was in the same room as her daughter. Not across from her, not waiting for her, with her. And that specific, unremarkable 11-minute moment on an unmemorable Tuesday in February is what repair actually looks like when it begins. Not a breakthrough, a degree. 1 degree of change in the temperature of the room. Diane spent the next several weeks doing variations of that same thing. Not every night, not with a system, with a question. What is she actually doing in there? And what would it mean to be curious about it instead of afraid of it? She started asking Maya things she genuinely didn't know the answer to. The shows, the people online Maya found funny. The music, not a strategy. Not to earn currency toward a future conversation about limits, because the question Diane had started asking herself, what would make being with me feel as safe as that screen does, required her to actually know who Maya was at 13. And she realized she had stopped asking. The limits came later, not gone, later. And when they came differently, not as rules Diane imposed, as conversations that started from a place where Maya already believed her mother was on her side. That shift, from opponent to ally, didn't happen because Diane gave a perfect speech. It happened because she spent 6 weeks showing up in the room in a different way. By the time Maya was 14, the drive home from school was different. Not every day, not transformed, but the earbuds weren't always in before the seatbelt. Some afternoons, Maya talked. If what you just heard opened something, if you're sitting with the question of what your version of that Tuesday in February could look like, there's a resource in the description that was built for exactly this moment. It's called the Repair Protocol. It's a 30-day guided journal and framework grounded in attachment psychology that walks you through what the first month of connection repair can actually look like, day by day, without pretending it's linear. Not a screen management plan, a relationship repair path. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment whenever you're ready. Now I know what some of you might be thinking as you hear this story. The objection that belongs here, the one this video anticipated from the beginning, sounds like this. Their situation was different from mine. My child is more resistant. We've been at this longer. The specific shape of our distance is something a general story won't reach. Here is what's true about that and what isn't. The specific details of every family are different. The texture of the distance is unique to every parent and every child, but the sequence underneath those details is not. What the research on attachment repair keeps finding, and what Diane's experience maps onto, is that the sequence is consistent. Connection before correction. Curiosity before limits. Safety before change. It doesn't mean limits don't come. It means they land differently and hold differently. When they arrive in a relationship where the child already has evidence that the parent is on their side. The first move is not a protocol. It's a question you ask this week. One genuine question about something your child is already doing on that screen. Asked without an agenda, held without redirection. Not because 11 minutes changes 3 years, because 11 minutes begins the evidence. And children, even teenagers who have stopped reaching, update their evidence. They notice when the quality of the presence in the room changes. They notice when the person who usually comes toward them in conflict comes toward them in curiosity instead. They don't say it, but they notice. Diane didn't repair 3 years in one conversation. She repaired it in increments so small she almost didn't believe they counted. One question. One Tuesday. One dinner where she stayed curious instead of correcting. Repeated, imperfectly, over time. That's not a method, that's a direction. And direction, even 1 degree of it, is the difference between standing still in the dark and moving towards something. One thing. Not everything. One question, this week, that you don't already know the answer to. That's it. That's the first step. Not because it fixes the distance, because it begins to close it. And beginning is the only place repair has ever started. If you want a structured path through what the next 30 days of this could look like, not a screen policy, a repair arc, the repair protocol is in the description and in the pinned comment. It's there when you're ready. What's the moment you realized the distance in your house was bigger than a screen problem? And what did that feel like when you saw it clearly? Here is what this video was actually about, underneath the story. It was about the question that brought you here. The one that sounds like, is it too late? And the honest answer, the one this channel will not soften and will not catastrophize, is this. 3 years is not the window closing. 3 years is the distance that repair has to cross. Those are different things. A closed window is permanent. Distance is a condition of where you are right now, not a verdict on where you can go. Diane didn't find a breakthrough. She found a direction, and she held it, imperfectly, on ordinary evenings, through the moments that didn't feel like they counted, and were quietly counting the whole time. The Tuesday in February didn't look like repair. It looked like 11 minutes on a couch, asking a question and staying when the answer came. That's what repair looks like from inside, not a transformation. A turn, 1 degree, then another. The child who is still there is not waiting for you to get the protocol right. She's waiting for the version of you that comes toward her in curiosity instead of correction. That version of you is not far away. It's as close as the next question you ask without already knowing what you want the answer to lead to. In 20 years, Maya will not remember what the screen policy was in 2024. She will remember the Tuesday her mother sat down next to her and asked what she was watching. She will remember that her mother stayed. You watched this video. That's not nothing. That's the same impulse that put Diane on that couch. The impulse to reach. Keep reaching. The child who is still there, they're waiting for exactly this.